What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world? I would like to welcome you back to the Real Talk with Zuby podcast. On today's episode, we have got on a triathlete who has overcome a lot of hurdles in his life. He's a very inspirational guy, and this is Matt Izzo. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Zuby. So happy to be here.
No doubt, man. So, Matt, I've done a real brief intro there, but tell people a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so I struggled with obesity and depression for most of my life, all the way from my teenage years into my 20s and my 30s. I struggled with weight loss for most of that time. I've lost 75 pounds 3 times now after I gained it back twice. Finally, in my mid 30s in 2016, I lost the weight again, and I've just kind of kept going. First starting out with going to the gym, lifting weights, training a lot, and then I found triathlon, and I've challenged myself as a triathlete these past few years. I've run a marathon. I've completed an Ironman 70.3, and I'm looking to keep challenging myself into the future.
That's awesome, man. I'm curious before we go into some of that to learn a little bit about the man behind all of this. So tell me a little bit about your backstory. Where did you grow up and what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I've been living in New Jersey for my entire life, and I had a lot of painful moments in my childhood. There was a lot of trauma that I was exposed to, right? And I was in kind of a downward spiral, and I struggled with my emotions, and I found solace in food from that. So
Mm,
by eating foods, sugary foods, unhealthy foods, I would feel better, and I carried that weight with me for a long time, and I struggled with that for my entire life, really, up until my mid 30s, and that has been what has been my biggest challenge. And it's been an interesting journey for me, because what I would have said was, I hated myself because I was fat, but
mm,
it was more that I hated myself and I was fat. So my being fat was actually a symptom of these underlying problems, more so than anything else.
mm,
So this is why my struggle has been so long. Was I would lose the weight, but I wouldn't do any of the work to address the underlying problems that I had. The emotional trauma that I had. Right, I didn't actually deal with any of that stuff. So I would be focused and dialed in with my willpower, and I would lose weight, and then my willpower would give in. Only to find that I would gain the weight back, and I'd be back in that same situation again. So it's recently, through not only losing the weight, but then doing things like meditation, gaining control over my mind and my emotions, that I've been able to really parlay this into success, and I've now kept that weight off for over 4 years, and I've gone on to bigger and better things.
good for you, man. That's the first thing I want to say.
Thank you.
And I think it's quite a familiar story. I think this is something that is the case for millions and millions of people out there. And it's a strange subject because I think it's one of those things that is sort of discussed, but not really. I think as individuals and as society, perhaps we do quite a poor job of getting to the root of, I would say, most problems, both on an individual and a collective level. And it's always dealing with symptoms or the things that people can kind of visibly see rather than looking at the root and being like, okay, what is going on here? There's something you said there that was really interesting, which is that you said that in the past you hated yourself. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is I did not have a positive self-image. And
Mm,
what I've come to really realize throughout this journey is that the most important thing is our self-image. Right? Mindset really is the number one place to start for this, because if you have the
mhm,
right mindset, and you have goals, then it's all about just showing up every day and working toward those goals. But if you have a poor self-image, right, this is what takes over my my willpower would fail. That's when my self-image would take back over again, and that's why I would gain the weight back, because that was how ultimately I saw myself deep down inside, because I
Mm,
failed to deal with any of this trauma that I had suppressed and repressed over the years of my life.
I hear that. And how did you go about? So let me get this story right. So you lost the weight twice and
Hmm.
gained it back twice, and then you lost it the third time and kept it off the third time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. What was the difference the third time around?
The difference the third time around was I realized that, right, if I have willpower to lose the weight, then all I would need is much less willpower to keep the weight off, right? Instead of just seeing the weight loss as an achievement and a goal, putting it on the shelf and being proud of it, and then just forgetting about it altogether. If I kept those same habits, right? If I kept logging my food, and I kept exercising, and I kept weighing myself every day, right, I wasn't going to gain that weight back, right? And that was a crutch for that time, but it worked. And as that crutch worked, I became more emotionally healthy, as well as I started to meditate and gain control of my mind and emotions in other ways. Right? If I would have gone back to 2016, I had a number of problems then, but I realized that the most important one was my health, and I had to
Mm,
get that right before I could find a new job, or do any of the other things. Right? You only have so much energy, especially when you're in a state like that. I was obese, so I had to focus all my energy on getting myself physically healthy first, and then by doing that, I was able to keep that going and continue my journey, and keep growing and improving to the point where I could kind of let those training wheels off, right? I've stopped logging my food. I've stopped doing all that stuff, but I'm much more connected with my body. I'm much more connected with my emotions. So I don't need to do those things that I once had to in order to be successful and maintain my weight loss.
mhm. What was the hardest part of it?
The hardest part of what, maintaining the weight loss.
Either the loss or the maintenance. What
The,
was it that you struggled with the most?
the hardest part was really getting started, and
Okay.
especially after having done it twice before. There's an 8-year period of my life from about age 26 to about age 34, where I just couldn't get the motivation, right? I struggled for it, and I knew how to lose weight, right? I had
Mm,
educated myself. I was knowledgeable about fitness and nutrition, and I lifted weights and all that stuff. So I knew what I needed to do. The hardest part for me was actually getting to the point where I could do that. And I made the decision again, where I faced up my fears. I stepped on the scale, right? And I actually dealt with what the problem was. I stopped hiding from it. And
mhm.
I decided to stop hiding, and actually challenge myself to fix this problem once and for all.
You mentioned fear. What was it that you were afraid of?
It's a good question. I was afraid of stepping on the scale, because I felt foolish.
Mm,
I had lost the weight before, and that was such a great feeling. Losing weight for somebody who's been obese for a long time is really a great feeling. You get constant feedback. Constantly succeeding. You're seeing the weight come off. You're feeling better and better about yourself. And then when the weight comes back, it's the opposite feeling.
mhm.
And people will compliment you on your weight loss, but nobody ever pulled me aside and said, "Hey, man, what's going on? Like, you look like you've gained 30 pounds here.
Yeah, yeah.
So that doesn't happen, and it didn't happen for me because I didn't have a great support group at that time.
Mhm.
So for me, that really was the biggest struggle, and just dealing with the fear of having to step on the scale, and come to terms with what I saw as a failure. Of, hey, I put in all this work, I lost this weight, I got into great shape, and I just let it go. and I felt foolish.
Yeah, I understand that, man. I understand that. Yeah, no, it's really interesting because the reason I want to go kind of deep on this is because weight is something that a lot of people, needless to say, struggle with. You could probably most people, maybe at least half the people, at least
Yeah,
half the people in the West certainly struggle with weight. And you said something earlier, which you said a lot of things I agree with, but I'm huge on mindset. I really believe that mindset is the basis for success or failure in virtually everything. Yes, we all start with different positions, we have different genetics, different experiences, all sorts of random factors and variables are involved in every single person's life. But with the mindset, you can really predict long term success or failure in anything, in business, in fitness, health, relationships, whatever it is. If someone's mindset just is not there yet, then I think in the long term, it's going to fail until that mindset shift happens. And then you can talk to someone for a relatively short space of time, for a couple minutes sometimes, even online. It doesn't even have to be face to face. And you can tell very quickly if they are on the trajectory towards success or they're on the trajectory towards failure. The way they speak about themselves and their own abilities and their own capabilities, the way they frame things, whether they're taking that responsibility and saying, you know what, yep, this is on me. I'm going to do this. I'm responsible for this. Or if they're trying to blame other people or other things or other systems or other factors, it's like if someone's in that mindset, I'm just like, look, until you change that, there's not going to be any long-term positive outcome because it's not that you are physically incapable of doing this thing. It's just that with that attitude and with that mentality, you're going to just keep undermining and sabotaging yourself every single time until that changes. So I was really curious to know in your personal journey where that click and shift was, where it went from going back and forth and yo-yoing to being like, okay, this time, this is it.
yeah,
I'm losing weight. I'm keeping it off. And I'm not only that, but I'm going to run marathons and I'm going to be competing in all these different events.
yeah. So I kind of hit rock bottom, I guess I say, in around September 2016. I had just a rough weekend, lots of drinking, lots of partying, and I knew I needed to make a change. I needed to at least take a weekend off from drinking. My body was telling me that, so I spent a few days kind of lost. And then one morning I couldn't sleep, so I was out for an early morning walk, and I decided to challenge myself to run a mile.
Mm.
And I don't really know what came over me still, but I have a measured trail out behind my apartment, so I decided to run a mile, and somehow I dragged myself for that mile. I plodded along, and after that, I was a different person. I came back in the house, and my girlfriend Courtney was like, "What? You ran a mile?" And and it was at that moment I could tell how bad a shape I was in too, because it really hurt
Yeah.
to run that. And I knew right then that I had to dedicate myself to losing weight. I stepped on the scale for the first time in probably 8 years or so.
Mm.
And I braced myself that I could weigh as much as 220 pounds, and I stepped on the scale and I was 234.4 pounds.
Okay.
So I just got handed an
Can I ask?
L
Can I
right.
ask how tall you are?
I'm 5'10".
5'10". Okay.
Yeah. So I got handed an L right there, right, right to start. But I stuck with it, and I knew exactly what to do based off of my prior weight loss attempts, and I basically just became that person that I was again in my mid-20s. I just
Mm.
picked up with that energy for somehow I channeled into it, and I just charted my course, and over the next 8 or 9 months, I dedicated myself to fat loss more than anything, and
Mm.
it really all started on that one morning, and for some reason I made that choice, and I'm so grateful that I did.
That's awesome, man. I love that story. Are you able to identify what the why was that kept you going during that period, especially that 9 months of weight loss? Because I always tell people, as I do coaching, and I always tell people to find their why, right? Find
Yeah,
what it is specifically that's keeping them going? Are you able to pinpoint what it was that made you go, okay, this is why I'm doing this? For some people, it's health. For some people, it's something that could be considered more superficial. For some people, it's they're trying to. It can be all different reasons for different people. Are you able to identify what that was for you, or it could even be multiple things?
Yeah, I think at some level, I've always known that I've been destined for greatness,
Mm,
and I've always known that. And, I've always thought of myself as a very intelligent person,
yeah.
but it's one thing to, if you're so intelligent, well, where are the results then, right? You think you're
Mm,
so smart, but you can't even, I couldn't even figure out how to be at a healthy weight, right? So I
gotcha.
think I knew that really was my why. I wanted to prove it to myself and to everyone else that I could live at a healthy weight. And, when you're going to the gym and you're training every day, you feel great. It's such a
Yes.
good feeling. And, I got hooked on that in my mid 20s, and I wanted to experience that again. I wanted to experience it again for a long time. But it's hard because it's fun to go out drinking, right? It's at least a habit, right? You get in that habit, you're eating bad, and then you try to go to the gym, it just doesn't work because everything has to kind of work together.
Yes.
You have to eat healthy, you have to sleep, you have to train. It's not just you can't just do one thing. You can't say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the gym," because if you're not supporting that with your other habits, then it's not going to work very well.
I hear you. And tell me more about the process. How did you go about losing the weight? What sort of program did you do?
I counted calories, so
Okay.
downloaded MyFitnessPal and I started logging my food. And I would just, as I would lose 10 pounds or so, I would make my calorie budget just a little smaller.
Hmm.
I stopped drinking, which was obviously a big help. Right, that was probably the hardest part for me was having to stop drinking because I knew that if you want to really commit yourself to a healthy lifestyle, you can't be drinking all the time. Right?
Hmm.
It's incompatible. So that for me was the hardest part. And once I was able to get out of that, and then all the behaviors along with that, I was conditioned to living a certain lifestyle, right? And so that was really the biggest struggle that I faced. But logging my calories, walking 10,000 steps every day. I had been
Hmm.
doing that for about 2.5 years to start with before I lost any weight.
Hmm.
So I was somewhat cardiovascularly fit from walking like 5 miles every day at that point, and that was probably how I was able to run that mile.
Hmm.
But that, and then just started lifting weights after a few months, and just got back into it. Another really big anxiety I had to deal with was going back to the gym. That was really hard for me. You're stepping back in the gym as somebody who was still kind of overweight at that point. And
Hmm.
I had joined a new gym in my town a couple of years before, and I think I went twice, and then I stopped going, but I kept paying for the membership, right? Because that's what you do, and
Hmm.
that's how gyms make a lot of their money. But I finally summoned up the courage to go back into the gym. I thought everybody there would be judging me, and but that's not true. It was internal. I was
Hmm.
judging myself for knowing that I should have been doing this all along, but not doing it, and choosing to you know live an unhealthy lifestyle instead.
Absolutely, man. The psychology is so interesting to me. I think when it comes to things that people fear, and this goes beyond health and fitness, I think that what's the best way to put it? I think that people's fears. This goes for everything. I think that most fears are exaggerated. I think that human beings tend to be. I think we massively tend to over exaggerate our fears or how bad everything is going to be, whatever it is. Someone that doesn't want to I don't know, they're afraid to start a YouTube channel. They're afraid to go to the gym. They're afraid to do this. They're afraid to tweet that. They're afraid, just afraid of everything. And the actual threat or fear is normally far less than what was perceived in that person's imagination. I find that the imagination can psych somebody out way more than the real fear. So they think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna step into the gym and everyone is gonna go quiet and stare at me and I'm gonna be laughed at and this is gonna happen and that's gonna, and it's like, and then they walk in and literally nothing happens. If anything, people welcome them and are trying to.
Yeah.
And so and I find that this happens with almost everything. But if people can just overcome that and just go, then 9 times out of 10 you'll find that however scary you thought it was going to be, it's way less than that. And once you are able to do that in a couple of things, then you can apply that to all sorts of different areas in your life, because it tends to be the same thing, just in slightly different versions.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I can really speak to that with what I've been doing recently is challenging myself by doing physically hard things.
Mm-hmm.
And once you challenge yourself and do physically hard things, right, lining up for my first triathlon that I had no business even being in that race. And, I had 24 days to train. I'd only started swimming 6 weeks before. I hadn't ridden a bike in 20 years and I didn't run much. And, I lined up and it started with an ocean swim, right? And, doing stuff like that, or, I did a race this year that involved jumping off a ferry boat into the bay and swimming a mile to shore, right? Doing stuff like that, it really takes the edge off your day-to-day life. Because when you're challenging yourself physically and you're doing things that are actually somewhat scary, right? Not necessarily just in your mind, that's what gives you the confidence to realize, like, whoa, I'm capable of so much more than I realize I am. I can handle myself in these situations, right? And then when you're sitting at home, all of your, or at work, all of your day-to-day problems turns the volume way down on them. And that's for me over these past couple of years has been the biggest change for me in overcoming these fears, is just going out and doing hard things and challenging myself.
I hear that, man. How have you found your support system throughout all of this?
Uh, so my girl Courtney's been great. She's actually lost coming up to 100 pounds herself.
Oh wow, okay.
Throughout this whole journey, we've been together since about
Mm-hmm.
2010. I've been able to help her a lot with that, and she's just been super helpful for me, and I probably wouldn't have been able to achieve the things I have without her. But my support system, other than her, at first it was not good, because
Okay.
I worked in a place full of low energy people, right? The proverbial crabs in the bucket that like
Yeah.
to pull you back down, and that was a big part of my past failures. Is these people who are threatened by me, threatened by my success, and so I didn't have a great support system, but I just started anyway, and I kept going. But now mostly through my Twitter account and social media, I've been able to develop an incredible support system of just so many like-minded people. And for me, that's been the biggest change, because I don't meet people like you, for example, in my day-to-day life, right? So that has been huge, and that's been instrumental for me in terms of leveling up even more. Is having that social media is such a powerful tool, and it can be used however you want to use it. And if you could follow 200 people who are the most inspirational people in the world, and you're just gonna see their example and follow in their example, or you can use it another way, and you can argue about BS and stuff like that, and waste your life arguing with add-ons.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, man, social media is I love social media, man. I have, for all the criticisms I have of it, it's a phenomenal tool. It's such an amazing tool, and despite it being around for 15 plus years, I still don't think that most people, I don't think most people get it. Most people don't understand just how powerful it can be if you use it intentionally, with purpose, and in a positive way. And if you use it in a way to integrate it and enhance your real life, not to replace your real life, but as you said, to connect with people around the globe who are positive, who are inspirational, who can help you, who can teach you, who can support you, who you can learn from, or who can learn from you even. And I mean, I know, like, I've been doing this for years. Firstly started out with my music, but then with everything else I do. With how did we connect for this podcast? I literally put out a tweet saying, you know what, before end of 2021, I want to record a couple more podcasts. Who wants to come on? And then you got in touch, and it was like, you know what, I've seen your journey. I've seen some of your posts. I've seen your weight loss stuff. Awesome, let's do it. Let's talk. And I mean, the people I've connected with in the real world and online, like through social media, it's mind blowing. So whenever I hear someone say, "Oh, Twitter is a waste of time," or "Instagram is stupid," or whatever, I'm just like, dude, like, you don't even know, you don't know the capability of this thing. Can it be annoying? Yes. Are there trolls? Yes. Can it bring out the bad in people? Yes. Are certain things jarring every single day? Yes, absolutely. Trust me, I experience it more than 99.9% of people. However, the amount of people who you can positively impact and inspire and help and learn from, it's just like, as you said, in the real world, you can't access all of these people all of the time, but then you can just go, okay, I'm going to follow this person, that person, that person. And then every single day you're being bombarded with interesting stuff, entertaining stuff, inspirational stuff. You can connect, you can communicate. Those relationships can go on into the real world. And yeah, I think, I don't know if it's ever going to click for most people, but I think that, I don't know. It's on one hand, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if no one else wants to use this to its capacity, I will. Um, but at the same time, I'm like, man, like, people could really, really elevate with these tools if they were more intentional about it.
Yeah, I agree. You obviously set a great example with that. You do such a great job with your social media. So I thank you for that, and being
Thank you.
such a great example. I mean, really, one of the most rewarding things for me is helping so many people now, right?
Hmm.
I go on Twitter. I share my story. I share my weight loss journey and all this stuff, and I help so many people. It's the most rewarding thing. And honestly, this is my life now, right?
Awesome.
I'm committing myself to trying to help people lose weight and be healthy, like, to
Hmm.
make the sort of changes I've made. And you don't have to go as far as I've gone. You don't have to go and run marathons and do triathlons and stuff. But my message is that, health is accessible for everyone, and everyone can feel good and be healthy. And, just getting the opportunity to share that message with so many people, it's been such a valuable thing for me in terms of giving me purpose,
Hmm.
and making me feel rewarded in terms of that. So, it's really been 100% the biggest thing over these past few years in my life. And coming off like the pandemic and stuff, like, it's been so clutch for me
Hmm.
building this network, and meeting great people like you.
Awesome, man. Well, it's gonna grow a lot more, man, because it's inspiring. And the thing is, as well, in this world we live in, I think people often feel isolated, and people feel like they're alone, and they think they're the only person who has certain battles or struggles or things that they're dealing with. And I think when people can just see, oh wow, oh, who's this Matt guy? Oh wow,
Yeah,
okay, well, look at what he looked like before, and look at what he looks like now. Look at what he's doing now. If he can do it,
yeah,
I can do it.
yeah,
Right? There's so much power in that, and because it's also so visual. I've
yeah,
seen your before and after photos, and it's so visible. It's like, okay, this is the same human, and he looks like a different human here. And he's
Yeah.
done this in, I don't know, the space of under a year. And you can also see what I love about those kind of before and after photos is that it's not just like weight loss that you can see. You can see the transition in people's like body language and confidence and even the happiness that kind of exudes. You can see it, and it's totally impossible to, without boatloads of performance enhancing drugs, it's literally impossible to greatly improve your physique without a huge change in your mindset. It's not possible, right? They go completely hand in hand. You can't lose 100 pounds without having a significant shift in your mindset and your approach to life. They literally go hand in hand. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. I think, again, in our society, people like to really separate and segregate physical health and mental health. And they're so closely tied together, right? People talk about mental health and they won't even consider talking about nutrition and training and body weight and sleep and drinking water and all of these things. Like they think, no, it's like mental health is a totally different sector. They just want to talk about, therapy and treatments and even pharmaceuticals and so on. And it's like, wait, actually, let's start with the physical health. Like get your physical health on point and see how you then mentally feel, because you might not need all these pharmaceuticals and this and that. You might just need to get yourself generally in shape, get your body moving, get your brain firing off those signals, get that serotonin and that dopamine flowing, get those endorphins going, and also just see that change in yourself. I mean, you lose 10 pounds and you look in the mirror, it's like, oh, wow, okay, look, I look different. You feel happier, you feel confident, it creates a positive feedback loop. Boom, you lose another 10. It's like, oh, wow, okay, look at how I'm looking. And it keeps going. Same with if you're building muscle, you're getting stronger, whatever it is. And I think something that not everyone knows with me as well is, I've been overweight before. I think, people see me now and they're like, oh, wow, this guy's in great shape. He's got good genetics or whatever. It's like, dude, I weighed more 20 years ago than I weigh now.
Mm-hmm.
I weighed more at 15 than I do at 35.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
Right? Exactly. And like people don't know that. So, I mean, anyone who knew me around that time wouldn't have been like, oh, wow, this guy's like in great shape or have praised my genetics or whatever. It's just like, no, I'm glad from a very early age, I got into it and I stayed with it. But it's like so many people have this journey, and it's so easy to look at the current state or look at what seems to be the end result and totally discount everything that went into that. So I think it's really important to have these conversations and to share these stories so people know, like, look, I didn't just wake up one day and do a triathlon. Right?
Yeah.
Like, there was a time not so long ago where physically my body was not even capable of this. And then I did this, I went through this, I overcame this hurdle and that hurdle. And then other people who are dealing with those same problems or have those same mental hangups and limiting beliefs, they can look at that and be like, okay, number one, it kills their excuses, because they can be like, okay, well, if other people can do it, I don't really have an excuse. But then also it inspires them, and then they can ask you questions and you can answer those questions and be like, okay, well, here's how you do this, here's how you do that. Because also some people just also don't have the knowledge. That's another part of it.
Yeah, that for me was the hardest part. In my mid-20s, I acquired all the knowledge. And I thought to myself, like, all right, well, problem solved, right? I used to be fat, and now I understand carbohydrates, fat, and protein, and I know how to lift weights and this stuff. So I'm good now, right? I have the knowledge, but there's a big difference between having the knowledge and consistently applying the knowledge. And if you have the knowledge, you consistently apply the knowledge and keep learning, right? Obviously there's still more to learn every day. So if you apply it and keep learning, keep adjusting your approach, if you do that every day, you're going to see great results. Your success becomes inevitable, because one of the things I always say is, like, when I was losing weight, those 9 months were going to pass either way.
Yes.
So when I was in September of 2016, it was going to be May of 2017 in 9 months. Where did I want to be when it was May of 2017, right? Did I want to put that work in, right? And then be able to live a new life because I put that work in, or did I want to just keep drifting, keep drinking, keep ignoring my problems?
Hmm.
And I decided to actually invest in myself, and you know it's a great investment because it was 9 months of work, but I can now be at a healthy body weight for the rest of my life. So I've
Hmm.
already, you know, more than 4 years, but you know that 9 months of work is going to pay dividends 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years
Yeah,
down the road for me. So, you know, it's the best investment I think anyone can make if they're struggling with their physical health is to, you know, work on that and solve some of those problems because it will help in so many other ways, right? It'll help you with your work, it'll help you with your relationships,
hmm,
it'll help you in every aspect of your life, having more energy, feeling better about yourself. It's the best investment that anyone can make.
I agree. It's all upside, man. I mean, health is wealth sounds like a cliche, but health is more valuable than wealth
Mm-hmm.
and than financial wealth. And if you disagree with that, you know, ask someone who is terminally ill or even someone who's just very, very old, you know, even very, very old and very, very rich,
Yeah.
right? If you could snap your fingers and swap positions with him, would you do it? And the answer is no. If you're a broke but healthy 20-year-old, you wouldn't swap positions with an 85-year-old billionaire who's got a bunch of health issues. You genuinely wouldn't. He would gladly swap with you.
Oh yeah.
He'd give up all those billions of dollars that he has, and he would swap to be broke again just to be young and healthy. So I think it's my friend Anthony Pompliano uses the term time billionaire, right, when
Mm-hmm.
he's talking about young people. So he's saying, you know, in society, we always talk about financial billionaires, pound billionaires, dollar billionaires. But what about being a time billionaire? What about being young and being healthy and having, you know, billions of seconds on the clock for you to live your life and enjoy it? And another thing I also tell people is simply that, and it sounds so obvious, but sometimes the obvious things are the most hard hitting, is just to recognize that you only get one body, right? Almost everything in life is replaceable, right? And there's more than one out there. You scratch up your car, you can get another car. Even if your house burns down, you can get another house. You know, something messes up. You know, and so many people treat material objects, literally material things they've bought with their sneakers, their clothes, their cars, their whatever. They treat them better than they treat their own body. And your one body has to get you from age 0 up until however old you're going to be. In fact, the reason why you die is because one of the core systems of your body had a failure and shut down, right? Whether that was by natural causes or by some kind of outside trauma. That's literally what ends you. And so it's just like, look, you have to make this thing last for all these decades through all these ups and downs. So like, take care of it, right? People are getting oil changed in their car and making sure their tires are pumped up and doing this and doing that, getting it washed, even just keeping it clean. And then with their bodies, they'll just be like, yeah, whatever, let's just eat garbage. Let me not sleep. Let me not drink any water. Let me not exercise. And I'm just like, that's so crazy and backwards to me. So it's one of those points I can't really hammer hard enough.
Yeah, I always thought, you know, I was like just the right shirt away if I got the right designer shirt and, you
Yeah.
know, had the right cologne, you know, like that would solve all, and then, you know, that was what I was missing. But
Mm,
nope, you
yeah.
got to make you got to make yourself healthy. But you know, this is really the best time because you can live such a healthy lifestyle now with you know it's obviously can go either way, but you know the access most people have to healthy foods,
Hmm.
it's there,
It's there.
and to information about this, and for you know people who could help coach you, or you know the books you could read, right? This is all available to everyone right now. So
Hmm.
there's no reason that everyone can't be living their healthiest lifestyle right now. It's such a powerful time, but you have to make the decision for yourself because it's not going to come from the people above. It's going to have to
No.
be a bottom up movement. It's going to have to be a decision that people make for themselves, and go on that journey for yourself, because no one can do that work for you. You have to do it for yourself. There's a lot of people who can help you, but no one can actually do it for you. But it's not as daunting as it seems. It's really just about making small changes to important things at first, and then just building up momentum toward that. And I certainly didn't have all these habits I'm doing now on that first day. I was nowhere near as complex as I am now. I just got started, and I think people find that to be daunting. And they'll see people with these complex health regimens, or maybe they'll compare themselves to their past self when
Mm-hmm.
they were healthier, and they were more athletic, and say, well, I can't just drop my entire life and start doing this entire different life right now. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not how you do it. You just start, and you just pick a habit or two, and work on it and adopt that, and then layer another habit on top of it. And if you do that for weeks, months, and years, and man, you're gonna be in such better shape for having done that, and your success is inevitable at that point.
Amen. Matt, what do you have planned for the future? Where do you wanna go with all this?
Yeah, I want to help the world lose weight. So I want to help millions of people become a healthy body weight, using my experience. So that's number one on my agenda. And then, personally, I'd like to complete a full distance Ironman race.
Mm.
Um, maybe this year. We'll see. I haven't
What's
actually.
what does that consist of?
So that's 140. That's 140.6 miles. So it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and a 26.2 mile
I'm
run.
sticking with lifting weights.
Yeah, yeah. I did the Ironman 70.3, which was half of that distance,
Okay, okay.
over the year, last year. So it seems to be kind of the next phase in terms of how I can level up even more. I'd
Mhm.
like to maybe run an ultra marathon, 50 or 100 miles, something like
Wow.
that. I find so much running gets a bad rap from a lot of people in the fitness community on Twitter, especially. I get so many benefits from running,
Yeah.
mental benefits, really.
Mm.
Um, no music, just out there. It's very meditative, and you lace up the shoes, and you go out on a run, and you're just out there by yourself. It's such an
I
empowering
honestly,
feeling.
I wish I liked running.
Yeah,
I've tried to like it so many times, and I've had moments where like I don't hate it, but I've never been able to enjoy it.
yeah.
I've genuinely tried several times. I think like I love training. I love
Hmm.
exercise. Like I love lifting weights. I even like doing like I did a ton of team sports when I was younger. I don't mind running as part of a sport, but just running for running, I don't know. It doesn't click with me, and I'm still hoping maybe one day I can change that.
Well, I would say it didn't click for me until recently. If you would have asked me, even as recently as 2019, I would have told
Okay.
you it wasn't possible for me to run further than 5 miles. Like
Yeah.
I didn't think that would have been possible for me. I would have told you I am genetically limited. 3 miles is a far run. 5 miles would be the furthest I could ever run.
Yeah.
But now I've run further than that dozens and dozens and dozens of times.
Hmm.
It's like anything else. It gets easier.
Of
So
course.
I've found a lot of joy in this, and just the mental benefits from it are great. I've kind of replaced my formal meditation practice with my distance running,
Okay.
because there's definitely a lot of parallels with that, especially if you don't have any headphones or any music on. You're just out there by yourself, alone with your thoughts, right?
Mhm.
So you have to learn how to control those thoughts and, just turn your mind off and just
Mhm.
be out there and enjoy it. But another key though is doing it outside because, the treadmill's terrible, but
Oh yeah,
it,
yeah. That's even more boring.
but yeah, if you can get out there with your shirt off, with the sun shining,
Yeah,
man, it feels so good. There's nothing better. So
yeah.
maybe
Some
someday.
of that is quite country and city dependent as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Awesome, Matt. It's been so great to talk to you. I'm so proud of what you've achieved. Honestly, I love seeing and hearing these stories. It genuinely makes me happy seeing people take their life into their hands, take their fitness and physiques into their hands, and just make these stunning transformations, and then go on to inspire and motivate other people. I think this is what we need more of in the world in every area. So you've got my respect and my props.
Thank you very much, Zuby. I appreciate you having me on and giving me the opportunity to share my story with your listeners. It's just I'd like to leave people with the idea that this is available for anyone. Anyone can become healthier. Anyone can turn their life around. Not just myself. There's countless other people on Twitter who've done similar things. So it's there for everybody if you're willing to commit yourself to it and become the best version of yourself. So that's it. And anybody can do it. I'm nothing special in terms of that, right? You just start and keep going.
Start with 1 mile.
That's it. My thing started with 1 mile, and I ended up running a whole marathon. I didn't think that morning when I was running that mile I'd be running a marathon, but
Mm-hmm.
you never know where these things are going to take you. Just challenging myself to do new things and doing hard things is how I did this, and that's how you overcome the fear
Mm-hmm.
and work toward becoming the best version of yourself.
Amen. And Matt, where can people find you online?
So I am on Twitter at Matt Izzo, MattiIzzo. I got an Instagram, which is Matt Izzo Fitness. So check me out on there. Happy to help anybody in the community who needs it. Follow me, shoot me a DM. I'm more than happy to talk to you and help you out.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks for coming on the show, bro. Great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.